15. All right, do we have enough players for our team now? Yes, good. Yes, okay. Make sure you've drawn the table under part 2 of example 1 in your workbook. And under part, not part 3, under example 2, we're going to write the ratio of boys to girls in our class. Okay, so example 2 on page 1 asks you to find the ratio of how many boys to girls in our class. Okay, we're going to do that together. Boys, raise your hand. Okay, I have 12 boys in class. 13. Oh, one sleepy boy. Okay, 13 boys in class. Girls, raise your hand. Girls, raise your hand. 14. Okay, and 14 girls. Now, does the order we write the numbers in matter? Yes. What is the ratio of boys to girls? Dima. What's the ratio of boys to girls? You know, be confident. I can hear you saying it under your breath. Yeah, boys to girls. 2. 13 to 14. So Dima says the ratio of boys to girls is 13 to 14. Thumbs up if she is correct. Thumbs down if you disagree. Okay, Faith, you have another answer?
Because it says in order pairs matters.
The order matters.
Yeah, so we have to put the 13 first.
Why?
Because it's greater than 13.
Oh, so Faith says since 14 is bigger than 13, it has to come first. When you order your pairs in a ratio, does it matter how large the numbers are? No, it does not. Dean was like, what? No, it doesn't. What matters? What tells us the order? Valerie? Not yet. What tells us the order that we put our numbers in? We know they have to go in an order. How do we know what order? Yes.
The bigger number?
The bigger number is my bigger number first? This is correct, by the way. This is the right ratio. Dina's right. But how did she know to put the 13 first? Go ahead.
Because the 13 is 7.
Because the question says, write the ratio of the number of boys to the number of girls. So boys to girls, we have 13 boys for every 14 girls, right? Does not matter which one's bigger. It matters how the question asks you to state the ratio. So if the question says, write the ratio of girls to boys, what would I write, Daniela? Yes, ma'am. 14 to 13, because that's how the question asked us to order the pair of numbers. Okay? Okay, so you're looking at example 2 on the bottom of page 1. Let's answer some more questions as a class. Okay, let's answer some more questions as a class. So turn to page 2. You see a lot of blanks for you to fill in. Okay. I'm going to give you some examples, and we are going to make ratios to describe our class. Okay, so let's erase what we have. Let's talk about Texas this summer? Raise your hand. I did. Okay, 7 of us traveled out of state. Out of state. Okay, if you stayed in Texas this summer, you never left the state, raise your hand. High, elbow to ear. 12 of us. 12 of us spent our summer in our state. Write a ratio of scholars who did not travel out of state to scholars that did travel out of state. Pencils in your hands. Show me your pencil. You are writing on the first line of page 2 the ratio of scholars that traveled out of state to scholars that did not travel out of state. Let me write it on the board. You're writing the ratio of Tristan, what's your ratio? What did you write?
7 and 12.
Okay, and how do you read that as a ratio? Do you say 7 and 12?
And 7.
How do you say that, Jocelyn?
7 to 12.
7 to 12. Your ratio is 7 to 12. You can also write the word. Okay. On your next blank, number 2 on page 2, let's talk about siblings. If you have at least one sibling, raise your hand. At least one. 16 of us, goodness, 16 of us have one sibling at least. That's okay. Okay. How many of us are an only child? Raise your hand. Somebody said lucky. 3. 3 of us are the only child. Now on line number 2, on page 2, you're going to write the ratio. Now listen carefully because order matters. You're going to write the ratio of scholars that have no siblings to scholars that have at least one sibling. Scholars that have no siblings to scholars that have at least one sibling. Okay, Michael, share your ratio with us, please. Do it, come on. You got a 50-50 chance of getting it right? We only have 2 numbers. You put them one way or the other way. And what happens when you get something wrong in class if you guess and you're wrong? What happens? Absolutely nothing. Give it a try. Copy. 3 to 16. And why didn't you say 16 to 3? Okay. Because the question was, Because the question was, to write the ratio of how many of us are an only child to how many of us have at least one sibling. Good. Okay, let's do, my favorite. Okay, now for this one, I need you to be super honest. Okay? Can we do like the, what is it, Boy Scouts? The Scouts honor? Is that how that goes? Okay, so Tristan's like, yes. Scouts honor. I'm going to be honest. Okay. If your favorite class is math, raise your hand. Are we looking around? Yeah, he's like, I feel bad, so. Oh, I got 5. 6. Okay, I got 6. I'll take it. 6 scholars, and I'm going to write it like this. 6 scholars love math. It's okay to be honest. I will win you all over by the end of the year. Yeah, that number is going to get bigger. So, if your favorite class is not math, it's another class you have, raise your hand. Lunch is not a class. Oh, 14 of us. Somehow we keep changing our total number of people in class. So if you're not participating, I really need you to vote for one or the other. Okay? Now all of a sudden we have 20 people total. Yeah, you see it. Okay, these folks love unknowns. We don't see it, okay. Write the ratio on line 4. Never mind, line 3. Line 3. Of scholars who love math the most to scholars who love a different subject more. You're level 0. This is for you to write in. You don't need this. Okay, turn and talk with your partner. See if you have the same ratio. If you did not, explain to them why you chose what you chose. Tell her what your ratio is. Okay, Joe, what's your ratio? What do you have for number 3? Huh? 6 to 14. We even said it correctly. 6 to 14. Or you can write it with a colon.
Oh, this is 6 to 14. Number 2.
Remember, it's not the number 2, it's the word 2, right? We have 6 people who love math to every 14 people who maybe don't. Or love another subject more, right? Okay, so you're going to look at exercise 1, which is on page 4. Nope, it's on page 5. That was our do now, okay? So you're turning to page 5 in 3, 2, turning to page 5, and yes, not yet. Okay, guys, remember our bathroom pass that looks like this is hanging always on that silver hook. If it's not there, someone's in the restroom, so please don't ask if you look back and you don't see the lamp. Okay. Okay. So for exercise 1, okay, a lot of us got really stumped and weren't able to complete it. So let's go through it together to erase what we have on. board. Exercise 1 asks you to do what, Anthony? Just read exercise 1 for us, loud and proud. Okay, it's over here. Come up.
Come up with the explain examples to relationships that are interesting.
Thank you, Anthony. Awesome job. Come up with 2 examples of ratio relationships that are interesting to you. Okay? Yes, ma'am? Questions? No? Okay. So now that you know what a ratio is, I'm going to give you 2 minutes to see if you can get further on your do now. Okay? There's a number 1 and a number 2 under exercise 1. So you write 1 ratio relationship for number 1 and 1 for number 2. What? Any one you want, exactly. Any one you want. Just anything that's interesting to you. Okay? I'm going to be walking around if you have questions. Sure? Yep. Think of a situation where you have 2 things. I'll give you an example. When I'm baking cookies, I have to use 1 cup of flour for every tablespoon of butter. Right? That's a ratio relationship. That's interesting to me because I like cookies. Okay. And what's your ratio relationship describing? To what? To what? Okay, so what kind of racial relationships can you come up with? This one is racial. Are you listening? So we've been Okay, so remember, I love to hear why you find ratios interesting, but the question asks you to write a ratio that describes something that you think is interesting. What are your numbers? Beautiful. Royalty. Not out. Part. Anyone want to share? Let me give you the opportunity. Oh, love it. Jocelyn, what did you write?
For the first one I wrote, I found 3, I found 4. I took a vacation to the beach, and I found like 4 shells and 3 clams.
So for every 3 clams, you found 4 shells. Very cool. Anyone else? Royalty, go ahead.
I have 32 moths and 52 butterflies. What is the ratio?
Yeah. There's 32 moths and 52, is that what you said? 52 butterflies. She wrote a problem. She asked us to find the ratio. The ratio of what? Because the order matters, right? The ratio of moths to butterflies or butterflies to moths?
Moths to butterflies.
Good. Okay. For exercise 2, which is on the next page, in your book it's called the Exploratory Challenge. Okay, Exploratory Challenge. It's halfway down the page on page 5. A t-shirt manufacturing company surveyed teenage girls on their favorite t-shirt color. they wanted to figure out what they should make, right? So they did a survey on teenage girls. What's your favorite teenage color, right? And they wrote down the number of how many people responded to each color. Okay, it's represented on the line plot at the bottom of page 5. Point to it. Point to the line plot on the bottom of page 5. Okay. Good, so at the bottom, you're going to describe a relationship in the context of this survey. Now, what does that mean? Describe a relationship in the context of this survey. What does like context mean? Context. You might have talked about it in Ms. Garcia's class, Juanita?
It's something that you wonder how other people want to try and have different things that you want.
Okay. Anybody add to that? Anthony? Context. If I say in this context, what am I telling you to think about?
You're telling me to think about the problem to solve.
In this specific situation that the problem's asking us to think about. That's the context. Good. So take 2 minutes to write a ratio in the form of a sentence. Okay, so it will start with, there are. Look at the colors that you might want to compare and the number of girls who picked each color on your line plot. Come up with a ratio. If you come up with one and you have a whole minute left, come up with another one. Yes.
Whichever one you want.
You can compare anything you want on the survey, yes. No. Describe a relationship in the context of this survey. Okay. And then the second part of the question says the ratio should be 3 to 5. It doesn't have to be. I want you to write any ratio that compares the numbers on the line plot. Then we'll talk about the 3 to 5. Yep. Remember to write it as a sentence. You can write your ratio with colons first. Pencils down in 3, here in 2, and 1. Awesome. Track me. Okay. Who wants to share? Came up with a ratio for their line plot that you can tell me in a sentence. Jocelyn, go ahead.
There are 17 that like red and 15
There are 17. 17 what?
No, there's 17.
17 what?
17. Like they're teenagers.
Oh, I'm sorry. Speak up, guys. Teens
That like white and 5 that
Okay, now I'm going to pause here. Here's the first part of our sentence. There are 17s that chose white, or that like white. and Jocelyn says, and, what's the next part?
And 5 teams like pink.
And 5 teams like pink. So right now we have a sentence with 2 facts. 7 teams chose white and 5 teams, I'll use the same word, chose pink. Now, this isn't quite a ratio yet. We haven't said it or written it like a ratio. What can I change about this sentence that would make it a ratio? Remember the word that we use to describe ratios? Justin says 2. How can we incorporate that into our sentence, Justin? Do you know? There's 7 to 5. So there are 7 teams that chose white to each 5 teams who chose pink. A little editing and revising. Yes, sir. You have another one?
Yeah, I put.
You wrote the
There
ratio?
was 7 teams that chose white, and then another 7 that chose red, blue, and green.
But what you want is for your ratio to tell us about the relationship between 2 numbers. So I have this and I have this doesn't tell us how they're related, right? If I say I have this to every this I have, they're related all of a sudden, right? Who else came up with a ratio, a different ratio for the exploratory challenge? Anthony, what you got? There are 4 teams that chose blue to every 7 teams that chose white. Perfect. So what's your ratio, Anthony? Is it 7 to 4 or 4 to 7? 4 to 7. Excellent. Okay. Okay. Your pencils are down. Okay, you're going to turn to page 4. You're already open to page 4, but instead of looking at 5, you're looking at 4, where it says problem set. Now, quick note about our homework. Your homework is your problem sets. Okay? You will have time each class to work on problems from your problem set and get my help. Do you think you're going to turn in your beautiful green book every Monday to me?
No.
No, I don't want to carry around 120 books, right? You're still going to get your packet like normal, your homework packet. But it will literally be a copy of your problem set. At the top of your problem set page, there's always a lesson summary. Yes, ma'am? Right, so Royalty's like, can I just read my packet to school and work on that? If we're working on the same problems? No. No, here's the reason. I want you to be able to leave this class, go home, go anywhere else, and still understand these problems. Because a lot of you told me, I get home and I just don't remember anything. I get home and I try to work on these tape diagrams and I don't know where to start, right? That's totally normal. So this will help, but I'm not going to just give you the answers in class, right? Because homework's still for homework. Okay, so we'll work on them out of our book, and then you'll go home and you'll have a better idea of how to do that. So at a level 0, you're going to work independently on your problem set for the next 8 minutes. The really cool part about that is that myself and Ms. Perales are both here to help you. Okay, so when you get stuck, you're not at home thinking, should I text her, should I call her, should I watch a video, I don't know, we're right here. Yes? What? Okay, we'll talk about it. It's there. Yes?
Will this be on today's homework?
Yes. Yeah, so the really smart thing to do tonight is to go home and complete what part of your homework? The part we're working on today. If you wait until Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you might not have such an easy time remembering what to do. Okay? So, let's do 7 minutes. Go ahead and start.
Is this an A, B, C, and D question like you gotta circle it?
No. So the A, B, C, D, those are parts. So you're going to complete this at the bottom, the blank spot. Yes? At the bottom, where the blank area is, you'll write number 1, part A, and you'll write the ratio. Everyone should have a pencil in their hand. Connect your brain to your paper. Not every problem is going to ask you about all of the information you're given, right? They might ask you for 2 parts of it. It's okay. Yes. Okay, these are not multiple choice. It's asking you to complete this, to do this.